Hi everybody, this is Michelle Hotchkiss. I was asked if I could do a video on how to do the leaves for the stylized flowers. So this is based on the Bible page that I did in Psalms that I posted on the Bible Journaling community Facebook page. I tried this a couple times in my Bible, outside and inside. It didn't work. So right here I am actually just drawing out a leaf in just a blank journal, sketchbook journal that has paper similar in color to the journaling Bible, although this paper isn't as slick. There's a little bit of texture to it, but it still basically works the same. Anyway, you can see here that I'm just drawing kind of a really random, kind of a not very attractive looking leaf here. You know, if you just left it like that, you would kind of go, ooh, that's not very attractive. But again, just like with the flower, it's the shading, the lights and the shading that make this look really nice. So right here, I'm just adding some tips to the leaves, kind of like they're folded over, curled over a little bit. I really enjoy the kind of like windblown wildflower look, things that feel like they're moving and not just kind of sitting there on a page. So I like to put a lot of curves and kind of just different shapes into my drawings, and it really adds interest. It makes them just look like they're flowing and, you know, kind of out in nature. Okay, so I got the outline drawing done, and now I'm just using the same pen that I used before, which is the Copic 0.05 fine line pen, and I am just starting on the line work. And these are kind of flicking motion type lines, kind of, I guess you could almost call it a tapering line. I kind of just flick the pen and as I go, and that gives me kind of a darker mark when I first start the pen stroke and kind of lighter and tapering off towards the end of the pen stroke. And I just did the first section of the leaf, and now I'm going up the vein. What I find with these leaves is that it works pretty good if you kind of just do a darker separation between each of the little leaf parts that stick out of the leaves. And so really most of the shading is kind of around the vein in the center of the leaf, and then just a little bit going on the top of the leaf. And it's really the same, pretty much the same way as we did the flower, is you just pick out the little curves and stuff in the leaf, and you just kind of start from there to start making your strokes. Again, it's a flicking kind of stroke, a tapered kind of stroke. If you hold your pen straight up and down, you get more of a bold, darker line. If you tilt this type of pen to the side, you can get kind of a finer, lighter line. So a lot of times you'll see me at the vein of the leaf here, I'll be using a bolder stroke. Then when I go up to the tip, to the top of the leaf tip there, I use kind of a lighter stroke. And start working light, keep your pen strokes light, and you can always darken them up later. You can't go lighter, but you can always go darker later on. So you also want to make sure that you keep your lights, so you don't want to put in too many pen strokes. The light or the highlight in your leaves and in your petals in your flower are the white of the paper. You're not adding white to make a highlight, you're just using what's already there. So it's really good practice to work with your pen or your pencil. This can be done in different kinds of pens, pencils, you know, a lot of different kinds of things. It doesn't have to be the exact pen that I'm using. And just work with your pens and play with them and get to know your materials, or get to know how your supplies work. Then you can use them to the biggest advantage. So here I'm just going back down to the vein and then up to the tip of the leaf there. Just gentle little strokes darker a little bit along the bottom, and the separation between the two edges of the leaf there, those are my dark points around my vein and in between the two edges, the two, what do you even call those things? The two spiky parts of the leaf. So just stroke up from the vein in the middle, and then stroke down from the tip of the leaf downward. Now also when I do these strokes, I'm actually not doing just a straight line. I'm following the form of the leaf there. So a lot of these pen strokes are actually a little bit curved, and that gives a lot more motion into the leaf. If you just do straight lines, you lose a lot of that motion. You lose a lot of the depth and, you know, the curling feeling of the leaves. So just try and do little gentle curves, you know, and then it doesn't take a whole lot, but just try and do some gentle curves following the shape and the form of the leaf, and that'll give you much more dimension. So I'm just going to pause talking for a little bit and let you watch the video, and I will start talking again once we get to the tip of the leaves. Here I'm just going right along the vein of the flower, darkening it up. Again, it's important to darken your darks enough so you get good contrast. I'm just putting in little dots. Dots are really useful for shading in really small, tight spots. And now I'm going to the tips of the leaves, which are curled over, and I am just darkening up some of the outlines, creating more contrast between the tip of the leaf and the rest of the leaf. And I'm also putting little tiny shading lines in there. It doesn't take much. It only takes just 2 or 3 little strokes following the direction of the tip of the leaf to give it some shading and some shape. So it's not just a white spot on the top of the leaf. Now this big part can take a lot more shading than the little tips can. And again, you want to follow the shape of the leaf when you do your shading lines. On this, you wouldn't go down. You need to go across, you know, just follow the tip of the leaf all the way up to the top. And I'm just going to continue to darken some of the lines there, creating some contrast, and 1 or 2 strokes on the little tips there, and it really makes them stand out. It gives them shape so it looks like they're kind of curling over. And for these little leaf tips, you do the shading from the corners, from the corners and the very tip of the leaf. You don't want to really shade the middle too much, because then you will lose your highlight and it will look flat. So make sure you keep some white, some of the paper color in those places wherever you need highlights. Just darkening up some of the lines there. Remember, don't go crazy with your darks, but definitely put in some, you know, darker select spots of your darkest shading. If you don't get enough darks in there, things tend to look washed out and kind of flat. So the darkest parts, when you're looking at a leaf like this, your darkest parts would be where the leaf recedes furthest away from you, or is in the greatest shadow, which would be where it meets up with the vein in the middle of the flower and in between the spikes or the individual little leaves of this leaf. Always step back and kind of take a look at what you're doing. Sometimes if something's not working right for you, or you're not really liking what's happening, walk away for a few minutes. And then when you come back, you can kind of see it with fresher eyes. Or you can also take a photograph or look at it in a mirror, which allows your eye and your mind to view it as a whole, one whole picture, instead of just little individual details. And in the last video, I wasn't able to show you how I did the stem. So right here, I'm just doing the stem, and all I'm doing is just shading lines along the edge of the two lines for the stem. Then I'll be adding some little dots in there to add some more shading. Sometimes I take the shading lines more into the middle of the stem, and that makes the stem look like it's bending. Okay, so this is a watercolor that I did with the same pen, and then I painted it with watercolor paints, and you can see there's all kinds of leaves in there. So you can do different shaped leaves and vines and petals and all kinds of wonderful stuff. There's even a few pieces in there that actually look like wood, chunks of wood. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. I appreciate everyone's comments, and I hope this helps. God bless. Bye-bye.